Hey, what's up, man? How are
How
you?
you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Every day is a blessed day, above ground.
That's it. That's how I feel
No,
too.
right now, yeah, I'm on the 134, getting ready to merge on the 134. I got a couple loose ends that I got to deal with, but you know, get that done with and enjoy life
There you go.
best I can.
So we could do a short one, but let me ask you because a lot of people are getting pissed off with the YouTube thing. With like a lot of people are like this Giacomo kid. He's a fraud. And then you got people lying about gear, and I keep seeing more and more clickbaits because people are running out of content because they overdo it. Like,
Right.
what's your view of it? Like,
Well, I didn't know anything about the Giacomo guy until you brought him up. But yeah, fakery, phonery, whatever you want to call it, is BS. And the gear, I mean, I guess if you can try it out for yourself, that's the best way, I would think. Just don't take someone's opinion because a lot of times they're just pushing, and I guess that's part of their deal, to push the product and get it out there, and people eat it up, and they don't have an opinion of their own. I don't know, man. It's just crazy.
yeah, society's like changed. I was on YouTube yesterday, and the first thing that popped up was this Rhett Shull cat, but he was on Premier Guitar with Rig Rundown. I'm like, he fucking ain't nobody. He's just a big YouTuber because he piggybacked off Rick Beato, and now they got him on Premier Guitar, and he has no credentials whatsoever. No hit songs. Nobody. He's not. It's not like Eddie Van Halen on Premier Guitar. It's like
Right, right.
it's so baffling to me.
Yeah. It's like, who's this guy?
Yeah, he's not a bad guitar player, but he has no credentials. Like back when I used to play, they like you had an EPK package. Like before you even got considered for any kind of endorsement or magazine, they had to go through your management and they had to verify who you were, and you had to have like albums out, and you had to have this and that. Now it just seems like anybody can make money at anything. It's weird to me. I don't know. How old are you?
I'll be 56 this
Oh, so
June.
you're my age almost.
Yeah, yeah. Right behind you a couple of years.
Yeah, so you kind of understand growing up on the same principles, you know. It's
Yeah.
just so weird, man. It's crazy, and because like I did this Sabbath Dio show, and the singer's name is Jim, and I didn't really know him, and when I
Yeah.
heard him sing, I was like, holy shit. I was like, who is this guy? And I was like,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable that people don't know who he is, and he's that good. And I'm like, oh my god, it's insane, you know. And then the problem with the gear for me, here's the other funny part about the gear part. I watch a lot of people like demo these amps and guitars, and they're like intermediate players. It's like because their YouTube channel is big, I don't know. It's just strange to me. It's even like teaching, like guitar instructors. Like you know how it is like in your local area, people are like, "Oh, I teach it over here." And then you're like, "Well, you got a degree?" They're like, "No. I play in a cover band." And I'm like, "What?" You're teaching people and you don't know how to teach. it
Yeah.
it I don't know. Just society has changed so much for me in a whole. You know.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's all about instant. They want it right this second. There's no work, practice, what it takes to get to the next level. Um, it's just, yeah, it's just a different, the whole YouTube and TikTok and whatever, all the And I myself, I'm new to it. You know, I'm trying to figure it out. You know, I'm like a dinosaur, I guess. I like buttons and knobs and all this swiping and touching and to the next whatever. It's like, wow, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
No, and it's hard. I was telling my buddy the other day because I had the Bradshaw rack systems back when I toured in the old day. So I grew up on rack gear and that kind of stuff, but I'd still like amps. You know what I mean? It just,
Right.
traveling from country to country, it was easier with the rack system because it was more reliable in the different climates and different, altitudes. Because even a lot of people don't understand, the higher you go, that tube has pressure because it's compressing glass, vacuumed.
Right.
So as you take something that's at sea level and then you go up like 2,000 feet in the air and you play that amp, it's gonna sound different. Like a lot of people don't understand like how that even works. I guess because they never experienced it.
Right.
So there's like all kinds of factors in everything. Like a tube amp in, I don't know, probably
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think of that until you mentioned it right now. The altitude and all
yeah.
that kind of stuff. I
And
mean,
I
I
only
know like for
yeah. Go ahead.
but
Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I know like for boxers, when they would train, they go up to Big Bear, and train for a fight because of the altitude, and they want to I guess better their win for a fight, so they would train like that. But I guess that makes sense too. I guess with vacuum tubes, or I guess with anything.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I mean, even when I sang backups and stuff, when I went, like, if it was cold in New York or something, I did an outdoor show, I got winded quick because the dry air going into the lungs would dry my
Yeah.
throat and the lungs up real quick, and I'd constantly have to sip on, like, a tea or something, like honey tea. It's a,
Yeah.
but, it's funny because I only know this stuff because I experienced it all. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but like when I watch like these YouTube guys that are supposedly experienced and they talk a lot of stuff, I'm like, that's not how it really works. I don't go on their channels to bash them or anything, but when I hear it, I go, man, that's crazy. And like kind of YouTube, like if I have YouTube Studios, so like you have it too because you do channels, so you got your own channel, and if you go on
Right.
your YouTube Studios, sometimes they suggest topics for you. And HW from Tone
Right.
Junkies
Yeah. I
talked
see
about
that.
this, and I'm like, why the f should I listen to YouTube? Why wouldn't this is how this idea started with the subscribers. I want to hear from the subscribers. Like what would you like to see on YouTube? What do you search for?
Um. Well, if it's guitar related, I'm a big Van Halen fan. You know,
Yeah.
Van Halen and old Kiss. I mean, that's what really got me into the whole makeup and fire and everything. Man, that's crazy. But it just depends. I mean, I don't watch TV. I don't subscribe to that anymore. I just there's a few people I follow, I guess, as far as news content. But as far as music gear and all that stuff,
Like who do you watch on YouTube? Like for not the news stuff, but like for music stuff. Like who are your favorite channels?
let me see. There's a guy from time to time that I'll check out. He's called Jay Guitar, I think.
Jay
He
Guitar.
does a lot of Van Halen and Lynch.
Oh, I
And
know who you're talking about. Yeah, he does a lot of
yeah,
covers and stuff too.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you know who else is good? I like is Nick Layton. I think he's left-handed, lefty. He does like '80s metal guitar riffs and licks.
I don't think I've seen him.
Yeah, I check him out from time to time. He's pretty good. There was another guy. He was a real big Lynch. I don't want to say copycat, but I mean he could do the Lynch stuff pretty good. Tony Fuentes.
Yeah, I watch him too. He's good at it.
Yeah, he would do the Lynch stuff. So you know who I don't see is enough Warren DeMartini. I don't see people doing him.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, he's a monster player, man.
yeah. He's got a, you know, a couple like I filled in for Rap for a couple times, and he came out to one of the shows, and he said, after the show, he goes, "You know, you're playing that wrong." I go, "What?" He goes, "Let me show you." And he was gracious enough. He was really like low key, like quiet, humble,
Yeah.
and he went out of his way to show me, what I was doing wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen an interview with him with Andy Allendor, I think, from like Guitar World.
Yeah, I
And
remember him.
he's playing, and he's just, yeah, he seems like a pretty humble guy. And he went off on some Train Kept Rolling, man. That's like, I dig that solo from Arrow. And it's not even Perry and
No, it's not. It's
Whitford.
not Perry.
Yeah.
It's studio guys.
Yeah, Steve Hunter and Dick Wagner.
Yeah, yeah.
And so anyway, yeah, I was pretty impressed with that. I was like, man, he just shredded that up. I mean, he didn't do a note for note, but you could hear it, you know.
Yeah.
His own flavor.
That's one of my
his own
favorite.
style.
That's one of my favorite Aerosmith songs.
Oh man, I dig that because there was a local band where I grew up. I went to school with the guy's sister. He played bass and he sang, and that was one of their songs that they would always do. And they played next door where I lived, and I was just a kid. We were peeking over the fence, and that song they started jamming on. Train Kept Rolling. And I was like, oh, that was it for me. I mean, that's the kind of guitar I want to play.
My very first rock concert, my cousin took me. It was Aerosmith. It was Night in the Ruts, and then my father took me to see Kiss, and it was the Dynasty tour. I think I was 12, and my dad was a cop, so he got really good seats, and we were fourth row, and I was right in front of Ace, and man, he came up out of that amp with the smoke and the blue light, and I was like, hell yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And my dad was like, hell no, you're not.
You gotta be a doctor or a lawyer, That's crazy.
Yeah, my mom, she's passed, but she told me, because my dad's like a hard ass. He's not no more, but she said to me a long time ago, she goes, your dad would go by your room and listen to you play, and he would ask me, is that him playing with the record? I can't tell. And she's like, yeah, he's good at what he does. You should let him pursue it. And he helped me out. He got me he bought my JCM 800, which my buddy Mike Crommiller owns. It's crazy. Like a head that my first head my friend owns through another friend. And I'm like, you still have that? It's crazy. Like how some people like around the area like that. It's just strange. Like I went to that Sabbath show in Fort Myers, and Sted Halen was there from Wasp, and he was in the back, and I was like, hey man. And he goes, oh. And he goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm playing in the opening band. He goes, and I said, do you remember me? He's like, yeah. He goes, what was your band's name? I said, well, we were playing the circuit. I said, it was called Adam's Anguish. He goes, yeah, we did a show with you at the casino. I go, yeah. And he goes, he was like, cool. And then he owns like bars over, and he was helping out the guy, what's his name, Vinny Appice. He was helping him out on the tour. So, it's weird how like. And then I saw my buddy at the Boca show, Tony, he was the drum tech for Journey and all these big bands, and he happened to be there. And I was like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I was helping Vinny out. And I was like, what? It's like funny because I'm not in the scene anymore playing out as much. Like those were probably my first two shows in like 15 years. But, it's funny that like all these people are still around the same people. After all these years, that was weird to me too. But yeah, so like, the other stuff is like, and what's funny about YouTube to me too? They all jump on the same bandwagons. Like when one product comes out, it's the same 10 people that come out with the same product at the same time.
Yeah, and then even sometimes lessons like, I guess, you'll see some of the, or I don't know. I mean,
It's true.
kind of want to say it's coincidence, but maybe not. It's like, hey, we're gonna push this song, let's
Yeah.
get this
Well,
one out there.
the guy Tennis Nuts, I don't know his real name because he wanted to remain private. He said to me in a text, he goes, "Hey, did you see the new Beato video from a couple days?" He goes, "I think he just saw your video because he's doing a thing about modes and it's very similar with the noodling and stuff." I was like, it's
Oh
possible.
yeah,
Because I'm sure some of these guys watch some of the videos and they're not subscribed because they're like big YouTube channels and they're not going to say. The only one that's ever said was HW from Tone Junkie. He's like, "Holy crap, dude, you're subscribed to me?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "Why wouldn't I watch you?" I said, "You helped me out with."
yeah. Well, when you brought him up, I tried looking him up. I wasn't Tone Junkies. It was something else.
The Tone Junkies, I think it's called, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I found it, and I was like, okay, this is cool.
He's a great guitar player too, and he has great sounds with the Kemper and all that.
Yeah.
It's funny because he's like, I try to play your stuff, but I can't. I'm like, you just gotta practice, and that's
what it is, practice, because like when you were talking about stretching, and then you take your thumb. I'm thinking, oh no, man, someone's gonna pull their thumb out of their joint. But anyway, I mean, there's a I think it's Lick Libraries, and there's a guy on there I follow, I guess, or get a lot of his lessons. Danny Gill,
yeah,
I think his name is, and there's a video he did on warming up, stretching, and all that kind of stuff, and then alternate picking, how to build speed, and then you touched on all that, and I'm like, oh, of course, like you mentioned with lifting or the trainers, you build up and you max out, and then you go back down, and that's how you build up your speed. But I mean, I haven't played or practiced like when I was younger. I mean, I was into it, and of course, life happens, and you work and to earn a living, and then sometimes you don't pick up a guitar for weeks or months. Sometimes, it's like, man, wow, I used to be able to do this, and now I'm like frustrated because I can't pull that lick off.
Yeah.
Like, oh man. And then some of the styles, like, of course, Eddie and Lynch and DeMartini, it's just, you got to be on it every day to be able to. And like you make it look so easy, and that's when man, those guys, they just, they put that time in.
I did when I was younger. And I tell the story all the time. I suck compared to what I used to be. I do. When I listen to my old tapes and practice, I'm like, I'm not even close to what I used to be. What happened to me is, I think around 40, 42, right around there, I started playing again after not playing for 13 years, 14 years. I couldn't take the music industry and stuff, and I didn't want to do it no more. As a matter of fact, the last Expose album, I gave the bass player my guitar, and I said, "You finish the two other songs. You know the rhythms." I said, "You can have credit for it. I don't care anymore." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "I'm done." He's like, "When are you coming back?" I said, "Never. I quit music. I just couldn't take it no more. The business end of it just got to me, and all the infighting with the band members, like I had problems with the girls, and they were, they started complaining about money and this. I'm like, you didn't write a fucking thing, and now you're ungrateful, becoming millionaires, and now you want more money? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, they get like a poison. Somebody poisons them in their ear.
Yeah, but it might just be human nature too, because when is enough is enough. I mean, it seems like even with people that have a lot need more.
Yeah, like a Gene Simmons. I love him, but man, at some point you gotta stop, bro.
Oh man, that guy! He's got Kiss on everything.
Yeah, and now he's got a new band. I'm like, he just won't let it go. I mean, I love him, But at the
Yeah,
same
I
time,
seen a thing where I guess he's not selling tickets and he's canceling shows and just something I seen the other day.
well, a
So
lot
I
of these
guess
guys are getting sick. Like I probably shouldn't say this, but Vince Neil had a stroke, and nobody knows
oh
about it, and it's not in the
yeah
news because I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying that. But he had a stroke. That's why they had to cancel the residency in Vegas, and they had to wait. He's recovering.
right
But then I said to some one of my friends, I go, that might be why he was mumbling words for a while. Maybe he wasn't healthy.
yeah
Maybe he
yeah
couldn't remember because he wasn't getting the oxygen he needed to the brain. I don't know, But that's the inside story.
right.
Allegedly, let me say allegedly, so I don't get
Yeah,
sued.
you
Because
gotta throw that in there allegedly because you don't wanna get sued.
yeah, that's what I heard from my friends that are like still in the business, and I just don't know if it's true, but that's what I heard why he did that and why they had to cancel for so long, because he had a stroke and he had to recover. So I don't know how it's going or what's happening, but same with Gene Simmons. I mean, how old is he now? 70, 70,
Two,
72,
70.
74, somewhere
Yeah,
around there.
he's up there. He's getting there.
But man,
It's crazy.
I at some point, like I said, they got to retire or whatever. But that was the band that turned everything around for me. The showmanship, the costumes, the rock music, and Ace
Yeah,
back then was freaking on fire. Like you listen to a solo on Kiss Alive 2, and you're like, man,
yeah,
this guy's way ahead of his time. It just he got caught up in the drugs, the alcohol, and just didn't progress. But I see that with a lot of
yeah.
guitar players.
Yeah, I think that was one of my first albums was Kiss Alive 2. And then we moved to another part of town and then I was turned on to Kiss Alive. I was like, what? There's another one? And that one blew my mind. I was like,
Yeah,
that was better than the Kiss Alive 2. That was my first Kiss Alive experience, I guess.
yeah. My
Yeah, Ace it was pentatonics and all that, but I mean, it was tasty,
yeah.
tasteful. I really dig I did Doctor Love for my cousin because he's like, we grew up
What a
back in
great
the '80s
song.
or whatever it was, and we were into Kiss, and he's like, yeah, that's awesome, man. So I was like, oh, I'll work on it. And I tried to do it, but anyway, he liked it.
Yeah, they have a lot of great songs. It's funny we're talking about them because I have The Elder from the movie,
Okay,
The Elder. I have the
yeah,
CD and the record, and I gave it to my son. He loves it. It's crazy. He's only 10, but I got him listening to like Accept and Scorpions, and
oh yeah,
he went to that. He went to the Sabbath Dio guy show in Boca, and so he got to see that show, and he loved the band. He's like, oh my god, they're so good. And so Jim signed a bunch of CDs and stuff, and I gave it to him. So he was like, oh my god, really? It's funny. And I'll tell you another cool experience. I don't know if I ever said this on the channel, but Kiss they just did their final tour a year or two ago, and
yeah,
a friend called me. He goes, dude, there's so many seats available because they canceled it like 3 or 4 times, so people just refunded all their tickets. He's like, you could come on. It costs like $60, $90 to park, and then ticket. It was like $500 or $600, but it was funny because I brought him there at the last minute, the day of the show, and we had good seats. And I remember my first Kiss show with my dad. I was standing on the chair, like mesmerized, and then he did the same thing. He was standing on the chair with his eyes wide open, just like staring at him. And I looked up and I go, that was me 50 years ago.
yeah.
That was
It's
a cool
awesome.
moment for me.
Yeah,
The funny
it's
part of that was when he was done. He's like, "You think the demon wants to see my Pokemon cards?"
great. Oh man,
Man, that
that's
would be
cool.
cool for Pokemon. They should come out with a Pokemon Kiss set.
Oh, yeah.
Man,
Give Gene the idea. I'm sure
I should.
well, he hasn't thought of it.
Yeah, I
He's
don't.
got to kiss everything else.
Kiss Pokemon cards. Then they could have their own friggin' Nintendo game. Kiss meets Pokemon.
I seen a car seat cover this past Sunday, and a guy I was with, he's into Kiss too, and I go, there you go, Benny. There's Kiss car seat for you. And it was a Hello Kitty. It was Gene Simmons. And I was like, oh, man. I didn't see the Hello Kitty part, but I was laughing. He goes, thanks a lot, John.
And what area are you in, by the way?
I live in Riverside area.
Riverside?
San Bernardino, Riverside.
Oh.
Area.
Do you...
It's about an hour east of Los Angeles.
Yeah. I'm friends with Rudy Sarzo's brother, Robert. He lives out near that way too.
Oh, okay.
But someone was telling me his houseboat caught fire. I haven't talked to him in about 4 or 5 months now. But
was he part of that whole Pacific Palisades and all the fires we had about 4 months ago?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was devastating.
Yeah. It's crazy out there. I have a house out in Huntington Beach. I haven't been there in a while, but I should come back out there. My cousin stays at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told him you could stay there. You could stay there for free, but you got to pay for everything. You got to buy your own food, pay the property tax, but you can live there for free. It's like, all right. But yeah, did you ever go to Randy Rhoads' old studio in San Bernardino?
Well, no, but when we had my dad's services, it was at that cemetery, and I seen it's a big like shrine or whatever it is, Randy. And I was like, I heard of him being buried there, and then I seen it. I was like, wow, that's Randy Rhoads.
That's
I was
crazy.
there for my dad's funeral.
And your dad's in the same place?
Well, no.
That's where you just had the service.
Yeah. He ended up cremating him along with my mom, and it seems like a lot of my family past 10 years or so. But
same here.
Yeah,
man.
I seen it. I was like, wow, that's Randy Rhoads.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I always heard about it. I was like, he's buried in San Bernardino, and I was like, never went to go check it out. And I think, you get some crazies that come out and they do graffiti and whatever. So I think they got something around it now.
I think his mom's teaching academy is still there, and his brother, Randy Rhoads' brother, runs it, from what I heard. I haven't checked into that or anything. Randy Rhoads was a huge influence on me as far as, because I like the ad-lib stuff, like the Eddie Van Halen style. But then when I saw Randy Rhoads and how structured everything was, that kind of changed the way that I wrote like songs and put solos. It made me think differently.
Yeah, I remember. Randy was. Some of the older guys, that I live by, was talking about Randy. It was always, Eddie Van Halen, but there's this new guy, Randy Rhoads, and I guess because Ozzy, was no longer with Sabbath. And then eventually I got to hear Randy, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman and all that stuff. And there was a thing back then, it was called Starlicks, and I remember buying tapes.
I got them.
Yeah, it had Randy Rhoads. I bought these,
Randy
Starlicks.
Rhoads, lick number one.
Slow, lick number two. Yeah. So, that's how I kind of got some of my licks from tapes like that. I think it was Wolf Marshall.
Wolf Marshall's the other one, yeah. Yeah, and something Mitchell was the other guy on, what was his name? Mitch Mitchell? I think this...
Mitch. I know who you're talking about. He did, they were, not DVDs, but they were originally VHS.
Dude.
Yeah, Kurt Mitchell.
Kurt Mitchell, that's it. Dude, when I saw... Because, like, a lot of people didn't know how Eddie did stuff. So it forced, like us to do things differently. We didn't have YouTube. And I remember watching that videotape with the delay thing on the Comic Punks. And I'm like, he does it with a delay?
Right.
I was like, that's messed up.
Yeah, but you know that you mentioned this. We didn't know, and people would figure things out, and then when you got to really dissect it or whatever, and you'd see like, wow, that's genius, man. I mean, it's simple, and you wouldn't think of it. I mean, Eddie was just out there, man. He was the greatest.
Yeah, it's funny because like I had Don West was a guy that I took lessons from privately as a kid here in Florida, and then at GIT they have all the instructors and stuff, and they're good. Don't get me wrong, but they basically are talking more or less theory. And it was funny because some of the instructors couldn't apply their theory. Not to take anything against GIT, but like if you're in class with Paul Gilbert and Friedman and Becker and these guys, you learned more watching them play because it was almost like a convention where everybody traded licks. And I
Yeah,
think and that also started that competition of the shredding stuff where like who could come up with the most crazy stuff.
yeah,
Because I have some like I just did a video, I haven't posted it yet, on some of the licks I did live because people were like, what the hell are you playing, man? And I forget that I haven't played out in a long time, so like a lot of guitar players haven't seen that because they're not on the channel, so they're not even used to like the string skipping the way I play it, like backwards and forwards, or I was tapping like chords, like double stops, and running them all the way up with my right hand. And people were like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "Dude, Stanley Jordan, I got that from in the '80s. He's a jazz guitar."
yeah. I remember Stanley
I'm
Jordan.
like, "It's not. I didn't create it. I'm just using stuff from a jazz guitar player that I thought was cool, and I incorporated into the rock stuff." But
Yeah,
that's kind of the idea of being a GIT. You would watch Paul Gilbert do something, and you would take it, and then you'd be like at your apartment, like taking his lick, and you're like making it better, and then you would go back and show him, and he'd be like, "What?" And then he would take his lick after he copied your lick of his version. He'd go back and make it different, and it just became like, who has the new version of the new lick?
yeah. That was the '80s. It seems like. I mean, you couldn't wait for me anyway, for Eddie to come, or Van Halen,
Yeah.
basically to come out with a new album, because like I can't wait to see and hear what he does next. It's just like, and then you got Mean Street, where he comes out with
Oh my
that
god,
tapping
yeah.
thing. It's just like, oh my god, what is that? I mean, it was just like, every album, I was just looking forward to it. It's just like, it's gonna be something awesome, something new, crazy, just only Van Halen can do. It was an awesome time.
That's something that a lot of people don't talk about. His rhythm playing, as much as he always did something new on the next album, but not only was it that one thing, like he did Spanish Fly, and then he had Eruption, and then he had, on Women and Children First, he had stuff. But like his songwriting was always, he wrote a lot of great riffs and hooks from album to album, on top of coming up with new soloing things.
Yeah,
That, like a lot of people don't talk about that, and then his sound would get better and better through the records.
right.
And it's funny, I just had a conversation with my amp tech, who's because I brought him that PV 5152, and he goes, "Why'd you buy this piece of shit?" He said, "All the
Oh,
parts are cheap in it." I go, "Yeah, I know, but it was iconic, and this is like new." He goes, "You still got your core blades, right?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Those are good amps," and he builds his own amps, and he goes, and he said something that I forget. A lot of these guys that get endorsement deals with amp companies, like Eddie Van Halen, his actual heads aren't the heads you could buy. His are all modded, hand wired, and done in PV's custom shop. Like they put in, like he might tell him, "I want this capacitor, I need this diode." Where they're gonna manufacture something that's close, that's consistent every single time. But if you
right.
were to buy his amp head, it probably costs you, without it even being Eddie Van Halen's amp head, but just that head alone, because it's been worked on with custom features, hand wired, would probably cost you 10, 15 grand. And that goes for like a lot of these guys. Like I'm sure Petrucci's amps are custom hand wired. But a lot of people forget that it's not the stuff you can buy off the shelf. And what's funny about that is I was looking at some new Wolfgang videos. He's not playing the iconic head. He's playing the old 50-watt 5153 heads.
Okay.
And I was like, that's kind of odd. You come out with a new amp head and you're not promoting it.
Right.
So it's like, then you start to wonder, well, maybe there's something to that, And then that's what Gary had said to me. So I started looking at that. I was like, yeah, all my stuff, like that whole rack system was all custom with features that I wanted. And basically, if it was an amp head, that was all, Jose modded or, all that same kind of stuff. You hear all those mods, all this, all that. I got a friend selling an EVH head that's been, I forgot who it's modded by, but he's got switches on the back and a master volume, and it's an EVH head, but he's got switches on the back that you can turn that head right into a JCM 800 with the flick of a switch. It's got so many mods. He's selling for like $2,000. I'm like, dude, how much did you pay for that head? He's like $7,000. I'm like, oh my god.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a PV VTM, and it has these little dip switches. I guess so that you could mod it. I guess they built it in. Basically, it's a butcher with the little mods built in.
I love that head. The butcher.
Yeah, and then from there they went. I guess they modded the VTM to the 5150. I think or it's the same James Brown, the guy not James Brown, but James Brown. James Brown. But anyway, yeah, he's the one that did. Those were his amp designs, and he worked with Eddie to do the 5150.
Yeah, and that's interesting too because he's the one that did Gary told me. He said when you open up the 5150 and you open a JSX and you open up the Triple X, it's all the same. There's a couple it was like a main board with a couple variations and mods from amp to amp. He said, but it was all the same. So VTM might be a part of that as well. Yeah. Which was strange. That's funny, and that's the other thing. A lot of people don't like when Eddie went from Music Man to PV and then PV to this. Like nobody knows. Like I see Pete Thorne and some of these guys tell the stories. They have not a clue. I'm like, why don't you just ask somebody that knew him or what really happened? I know he got caught with Leo Fender's wife or secretary banging her on a desk, and he walked in, doing the white, and he's like, "You're out of here, bro." And that's where the fighting started. With the.
That's the rock star life, I guess, huh?
Yeah, well, he loved sex and he loved drugs, and but that was a part of that whole band growing, because they came out in the 70s and the early 80s. So I don't blame him for it, but like nobody tells the real stories either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was at a strip bar back in, I don't even remember, like 1990, and it was called Pure Platinum. And David Lee Roth was in there, and the drummer from Prince's band knew him, and I knew Prince's drummer, and we all hang out. And David Lee Roth walked in with like a pair of overalls with no shirt on. They let him in, sunglasses, and they let him in with his own drink in his hand. I was like, what? How come he can? You know who that is? I go, yeah, I know who it is. And then so I was sitting with him, and I was with my buddy Mark, and I said, I'm going to ask him what happened. He goes, dude, you're fucking crazy. Don't ask him that. I go, yeah, I want to know. I go, hey, Dave, let me ask you something. Can you be honest? He's like, yeah, man. I go, what happened with Van Halen? He goes, why don't you ask Oko Yono? I was like, oh, boy. I said, and then Mark, my buddy Mark, like, elbowed me, like, you're a jerk. Oh my god! So I guess Eddie, when he met Valerie, he was like so into her that it kind of hurt the band, So she was like an influence.
What? Yeah, back then I kind of remember, that's kind of what was the deal, I guess.
Yeah, so
Valerie.
I guess it's true. He said it right to me. I was like, man, why don't he just say that on camera? But like even those guys, they don't want to say, the real stuff. I understand why, but it's they're funny stories. They're good stories. Like even mishaps of bands. Like why don't they like? I remember I was playing an arena and I walked in. We were walking down this hallway, and they, those like school doors, those metal commercial doors.
Okay.
So like it's a
Yeah.
double. It was a double door by the stage, and then you walk up the stairs and go in, and my hair's to my waist, and I was the last one in, and the door shut on my hair, and I went to walk, and I ended up kicked my feet out, and I was hanging basically from my hair, and
Oh
they
man.
held me. Like, why don't people like? I've gotten electrocuted at Madison Square Garden. I reached over the stage and grabbed the rail, and I got shocked. I mean, people don't talk about these like crazy things that have happened to them, like stuff like I think they're kind of funny now that I look back at it. At the
Yeah.
time, I was pissed off, but now that I look back, I'm like, that's like what was that one movie with Spinal Tap?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like,
No,
dude.
Ace Frehley, he wrote a song that shocked me. He grabbed the rail.
Oh, him too? Is that what that's
Yeah,
about? I didn't
that's
know.
what. Yeah, he grabbed a rail and he got zapped, man.
I
And
bet that was Madison
I
Square Garden. It's gotta
probably.
be. It's gotta be. They have some kind of weird thing back then where it wasn't like you could get. It was because it was in concrete and not. It's a weird thing. It was right by the stage, and I leaned over to the rail to grab. I had asked one of the techs to give me some more picks because I was throwing picks out, but I had my hand over the strings, and I grabbed the rail to lean over, and that's what happened. I've had my lips shocked from mics with wires, like touching like another cable that was frayed from a fan.
Oh man.
Yeah, all kinds of weird stuff. But it's. I wish bands would tell all these Spinal Tap moments and stop being so cool.
Oh yeah, I don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, there are moments that I guess you could learn from, or you can just laugh at. It's like, hey man, that's a funny story. You should tell that story. Nah, man, I don't want to, put myself out there like that. I guess that's how it is.
Well, that's
No
what.
one wants to be judged or
Yeah, that's why I say I don't want to edit my videos. I want to show you guys the mistakes I make. I'm human too. I make mistakes all the time. That's why like when Warren DeMartini said, "You're playing that wrong." Of course, I went red as fuck. I was embarrassed. Yeah, but he was nice enough to show me, and I was like, ah. But it's funny. Here's the guitar player and he told me some stuff I probably shouldn't say too. Like, Robin Crosby was so messed up on the heroin and stuff when they got their advances. He was always pawning guitars and amps, and because some of the leads are different live than they are on the record, and allegedly, he said he ended up recording some of Robin's parts.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, what? I don't know how true any, allegedly these are, but that's what I was.
That's inside information right there.
Yeah, but I mean, it happened all the time. Look, Nikki Sixx, producers come out saying, yeah, I was playing the bass parts on the song. He can't play it because he plays the track. But what's weird is he's a great songwriter. He writes all the lyrics.
I seen something recently, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago. It had to do with Warren, I guess, and
the
guy,
guitar
I
player,
think
Mike Slammer.
Yeah, I guess the producer that was producing Rat wanted to bring in his guitar player, the one he used to record solos for Warren, and the bass player from Rat's like, "Are you crazy? This is Warren DeMartini. Come on, you don't bring someone in to do lead for Rat, especially if it's Warren playing. It's like, God bumped his head."
That's a crazy band because I didn't know that like Jakey Lee was in that band, and then Jakey Lee was in a band called Rough Cut. They're all like that whole circle of the LA guitar players, they all knew each other. They were all in the same bands. But Jake was one of my favorite. I loved him in Badlands. But, you know, like Bark at the Moon album, that was
Yeah,
freaking iconic too.
yeah. He's a monster player, Jake, for sure. He's one of those Star League tapes I got. It was Jakey Lee, Warren DeMartini, and Lynch. I was like, I wanted to, blaze like that.
Yeah.
But it takes practice.
Warren's kind of. A lot of people say, oh, Warren and George play similar. I don't think so. Like, they do, but they don't. They do, like, similar things. Like, they have that weird slide vibrato. But, like, when I learned Warren's parts, they're different than, like, how Lynch would approach it. You know, it's still pentatonic, but the way they play their scales and there's, like, nuances in there. It's just different.
He mixes it up pretty good. That whole slide thing I heard was inspired by Jeff Beck. I guess Jeff Beck is the one that used to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, but the Warren DeMartini and Lynch, they had that wild, crazy slide vibrato, and yeah, it was different, especially like the MTV era when they used to play videos, and you'd see stuff like that. It's like, wow, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's how you make that sound.
Yeah. It's yeah, I'll never forget the first time I heard Van Halen. It came over the radio. They did Run with the Devil, Eruption, and You Really Got Me. And I was sleeping, and I sat up out of a dead sleep, and I go, what the F is that? I was a kid. So I took the stereo speakers and put them, like, pointing each other, and I stuck my head in between. And I couldn't believe the sound. And then I asked my guitar instructor, Don, I was like, how is he doing that? He goes, I have no idea. So then I asked him to figure out a lot of stuff, and he figured a lot of it out. Don was really smart. He played in a band called Rockestra, but he was like, one of these guys that were well known in the cover scene, so he had to learn a lot of stuff anyway, so, but he was always up on the latest thing. And that's funny because he was the first one who introduced me to Holsworth, way before I heard of Holsworth, before Van Halen and all that. So I was already like on Road Games and some of the other Holsworth stuff in his other band way before, because Don mimicked him. And when I went to GIT, Holsworth came in, and that was one of the things that happened. He goes, I heard you can play like me. And he goes, let me see. And I played, and he goes, do you have any idea what you're doing? I go, no. I just know the sound tonally. And he goes, do you want to learn what I'm doing? I was like, hell yeah. I go, I don't have no money. He goes, no, whenever I come here, I'll sit with you for like an hour or so, and then I'll write down. He goes, you're the closest thing I've ever seen to copy me. And I ended up not playing. Like, I did jazz and fusion for a while, but, then I started doing movie scores and the orchestrations, and then I got into, the pop writing stuff, and that kind of took over my whole life, where I didn't get to put any of my... I talked about it in previous videos. I didn't get to put any of my stuff into on record. So like I wasn't like, people in the guitar industry knew who I was, and they knew I could play like that. But I remember I had a friend, and I played a show, and I filled in for a rock band who was a friend of mine, and he was on Sony Records, but he was doing a cover show with originals, and he goes, "We won't come do the show." I go, "Well," I tell the story. I didn't know any of the songs because I wasn't playing covers. So I said, I'll have to go on the other side of the stage. Just turn your guitar towards me and I'll follow you. He goes, what? So I ended up just doing the whole show following him. I said, just tell me when the guitar solo comes. Just say, give me some guitar or something like that. And it was a weird thing. And one of my friends in the audience goes, I didn't know you could play like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's weird because it's not what people think. Like, you guys watch me on the video and you see me doing all this shred stuff, but like, if you saw me like in a studio, you would have no idea that I could play like that, because it's totally opposite of everything that I do.
Right.
because
Hey,
that's
Smiley, I really want to continue, but
yeah,
I got
yeah.
this guy here. He just showed up, and
No worries.
looks like I might be blocking a couple people here. But
Yeah,
if you
man.
mind, I'm going to save your information, and we can talk or text
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever.
I recorded this,
Hey,
so I recorded all
okay.
this, so I'll put this on and stuff. It was because it's interesting because you talk you're my age and we talk about the same things and everything. So
Yeah, that's why when you came on, I was like, "Who's this Jakey Lee?" I swear, I was like, "Is that Jake or Jeff LeBar?" And I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna click onto this and see what it's about," And then, oh, hey, this guy shreds, and oh man, this is something I can get into.
yeah,
Lessons and stories and all that good information. But yeah, brother, I appreciate you calling. I appreciate your time.
yeah, man.
Definitely, I'm subscribed, and I seen you subscribed as well. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm getting better. Hopefully, I'm learning. I got a was it Sennheiser MK something 200 whatever, and so hopefully I can make better videos. But check this out.
All
I
right.
set it up, and I need an adapter for my phone, but I got it all put up, and I'm like, okay, I'll just record something. I ended up knocking it down. It fell off the desk, and the little end cap fell off. And it's round, of course, right? So
what
I
what
go to
kind
pick it up.
what kind of phone do
What's
you
it?
have?
It's a Galaxy S22 Plus.
Because
So I need
I use they're
to.
condenser mics, but they're made by Zoom that plug right into your phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I ended up getting this one, and so I went to pick it up, and of course, it's no longer round; it's like a triangle. So I had to, I had to try to rework it. It's aluminum; it's easy. So I got it back in. I just need to put some Gorilla Glue or something so it doesn't pop out. But hopefully, I'll get a chance to. Once I button up these loose ends here, I'll be home. I got this whole early retirement thing happening with me. But
Nice.
anyway, that's another story.
All right, man. I appreciate you coming on and everything. Because, like I said before, I don't care what YouTube is going to suggest. I think it's a cool thing to like talk to subscribers and put them on YouTube because it's all about the musical community helping each other, and talk.
Exactly, and I don't get all the bashing or the negativity that people are putting out there, man. Life's too short for that.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
if you're not happy with yourself, that's you, but don't drag other people into it.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't get it either. It's like like people have come on my channel to bash me. I'm like, why don't you just do videos on your own channel about it? Because they
Yeah, and then you click on there, they don't have any
they don't
videos.
want to ruin their reputations.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but anyway, brother, you have a blessed day. Have a
You
blessed
too, man.
weekend. Hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah,
And I'll be watching the video later tonight, probably.
sounds good, man. All
All
right,
right, brother.
you have a great
Take
day.
care.
All right,
You
bye.
too. Thank you. Bye.
Jmata, Jmata. He's got his own page. I mean, you subscribe to him. Great guy, as you can hear. Again, another subscriber talking. I wouldn't even say they're interviewed. They're just kind of talking. You guys are more like friends to me, talking. I would even have somebody that bashed me come on, like, and talk to me one on one because it would probably turn more into a debate. But I'd like to hear even those guys, like Zach. Let's have Zach on here. Does Zach have the balls to give me his phone number and my email and come on here and talk? That would be interesting too. I give everybody a platform. I'm not. It's like if you guys ever watch YouTube, like with Charlie Kirk or these other shows. I know they're rightists or whatever, but debate me or come on. I give you the mic. No matter who you are, it should be a community of musicians. Even if you disagree, be friendly about it. Why not come on here? That's why I offer Zach the money thing. If you want to prove me wrong, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to prove me wrong. put some money up, and then I'll bring the 59 to somebody, and they'll verify it right in front of you. I'll fly you in. I'll fly everybody in. Murphy from Murphy Labs. I'll fly everybody in for the weekend. You guys can have a night, and then you pay me. So if you're even like a Zach or somebody that doesn't like the channel or has something negative to say, come on here and say it, and let's have a discussion about it. So I hope you enjoyed this as well. I got the live licks video coming out. I have a hard time with the EV8 Stealth. It really compresses the mic, and I tried to move the cabinet into a different area. It didn't work. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you, everybody. Peace.